Hi there. Welcome to New Tracks Modeling. New Tracks is an exciting new digital opportunity to obtain mentoring to help you improve your modeling. You will meet talented modelers and manufacturers from all over the world who share their model building skills and artistic advice. Improve your modeling and increase the confidence in your modeling efforts. Share your building efforts with fellow modelers and have some fun doing it. The shows are live on Zoom and YouTube, so be sure to join in and ask your questions. Now here is New Tracks founder and your host, Jim Kello, MMR.
Well, good evening. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. We hope you enjoy our show. We hope most of all that you learn something. That's what this is all about. This is where mentors help modelers build better. And we really believe that we do that. We try to have a unique show every week. We try to make it always different. We try to make it as non-judgmental as we possibly can. This is just about learning and teaching how to build better. That's all that we're interested in. And we hope that you enjoy it and hope most of all that you learn something. So thanks for coming. Tell your friends about us. The more the merrier. We'd love for them to join us too. Before we start tonight, I'd like to turn to Father Ron Walton for the prayer of the evening. Father, please.
O God, as we express our creativity in creating in miniature the world around us, may we marvel at the beauty and genius which created the world and instilled in us a portion of your great knowledge and wisdom. Give success to the work of our hands, O God. Amen.
Father, thank you so very much. I certainly appreciate your help with the shows and everything that you do for us. I do want to try to give you an update on Ted Becker, a member of our team. It's been in the hospital now, going on a month. He's finally out of the ICU, I understand, and he's been transferred to another hospital where you don't have to be in the ICU, but you're still in recovery. And evidently he's got somewhat of a long road with that ahead of him. So if we could have just a moment of silence for Ted and make sure that our prayers go with him for a speedy recovery. Thank you so much. And I really hope Ted is back soon. We all miss him. He's a vital part of our organization and has been with us for a long time. So best of luck and a speedy recovery for Ted. As you know, we started a new show called Modeling Lifestyle. It's on Thursday evening. The next one is on September the 22nd. And we have a short video to introduce this.
Welcome to the Modeling Lifestyle, where we celebrate how modelers have embraced their modeling and friendships as a lifestyle. We discuss how modeling can become a life passion and lead to lifelong friendships. The goal of the Modeling Lifestyle is to preserve the modeling and interests of leading modelers and the modeling industry. The Modeling Lifestyle is sponsored by NGMC, who believes that through bringing hobbyists together with both information and modeling, the hobby will grow stronger with more model builders than ever. NGMC, which started as Narrow Gauge Modeling Company, is focused in 1/4 inch scale across hobbies. NGMC is a market leader in 1/4 inch scale with a range of products from over 50 vendors. In 2021, NGMC became the largest reseller of out-of-production model paint in North America with over 9,000 bottles in stock. Join us every other Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time for the next Modeling Lifestyle.
And I'm really honored to have David Vaughn as our guest on the 22nd of September. David is a real leader in our hobby. He doesn't have time for a lot of modeling. He's, I don't think, really known as a fantastic modeler in the field, but he certainly has developed the capability of coming up with great projects, such as his presidency of the O-Scale Kings and other projects that he's been involved in. And he's just a wonderful guy and a real asset to our hobby. So I hope that you'll be available to tune in and hear David and his friends talk about what he's involved in and see some of his layout at least, and what he's involved with. So if we could run the short video of his upcoming appearance on our September 22nd show.
Join the modeling lifestyle at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on September 22nd, where we will feature the modeling lifestyle of David Vaughn, O-Scale modeler and president of the O-Scale Kings organization.
I love the sound of a whistle.
And you'll have to pardon our graphic there. We've got to correct it. We just haven't had a chance to do it yet. It's not the 8th of September. It's the 22nd of September. So if you're available next Thursday, you'll have to watch it on YouTube. That's the only way that we show that one. And we've had a lot of response to these. And we're very pleased with the way that it's going. And we think that you'll really enjoy meeting David and his friends. We have some new segments starting on our regular shows on Wednesday. We have two that I'm particularly proud of. One of them is called Women in Modeling with Christine Kimmick. And Christine is calling it Petticoat Junction News. I think it's a wonderful title. And I think that you're really going to enjoy meeting Kristen and the guests that she's going to have on these segments, because there's an awful lot of women out there that are model railroaders and are very, very talented in the hobby. And we can all learn from them, but they're not as visible maybe as men. I don't know why, but hopefully we're going to solve that situation. And I really can't thank Kristen enough for stepping up and wanting to do this. So that starts on October the 19th. And I hope that all of you will be able to watch it. And if you have any recommendations, to contact Kristen and give her the information about who you'd like to see her talk with, and be involved with her part of our shows. Kristen and her husband own a CAD design development company where they actually do CAD design and also 3D printing. It's called 3DP Train, and you'll be hearing more about that a little later in this evening, because Kristen's here to tell us about her company and about their offer of a discount to print the bridge pieces that you saw Earl Hackett develop on our shows recently. And I really do appreciate Kristen and her husband, David, wanting to participate in that. Then the next one is, let's go to our local hobby shop. This is sponsored by the National Retail Hobby Stores Association. And Phil, if we could play that video, please.
This is a great family, and I hope the people that are newer to this organization, to this NMRA, realizes what a great family we're building.
Since its inception over 25 years ago, NMRA's mission has always been about
collaborating with hobby retailers to foster leadership in the hobby community. Bringing hobby stores together to help one another is what NMRA is all about.
There is strength in numbers, and NMRA's members are shops, just like yours and mine. From the very small mom-and-pop shop to multi-store franchises and everywhere in between.
You know, this is the founding part of this program we have here, founded on fun. So let's remember, when they come in your stores, they're there for fun.
There are many great benefits to being a member of NMRA, from a great credit card program, discounts on shipping, and a members-only Facebook page.
NMRA is our voice in this industry, and it is up to all of us to make sure that there is strength in our voice.
For every member that joins NMRA, our voice becomes louder and clearer. Your support of NMRA is vital to the growth of the retail sector of our industry.
And I know that the organization is actively soliciting more hobby shops that are involved with the model railroad community. From everything that I have seen and the people that I have talked to, it's well worth a look for those organizations to consider joining the association. I got a great person to lead the section of our upcoming shows. This segment also starts new on October the 19th. And Mark Pogendorf, who's an NMRA member, he's working on his MMR. He's a hobby manufacturer, and he's the owner of Pogie's Trains hobby shop in California. And he's also a member of the association. So I couldn't have found a better all-around modeler, train store, hobby shop owner to head up this effort. And Mark is just, I think he's going to do a fantastic job in this. What this is all about, we're trying to provide a forum where the modelers, you and me, and the hobby shop owners like Mark, can try to better understand each other's positions on hobby issues and hopefully help each other solve the issues that for both of our benefits that we both face and we don't really talk about. So I hope you'll please join us in these discussions and make your voice heard. I posted information about this new segment on several Facebook pages this morning, including my own. And I'm so pleased with the reception that I've received. I think I have to say it's all been very positive and it's been significant. I think I'm probably now over 200 people that have liked the post, and a lot of them have commented on the post in addition to just hitting the like button. So I really am encouraged about that enthusiastic response to this segment. And really, this is the first time that we've really talked about it. So I hope that you'll pay attention on October the 19th, both the Kristen's new Women in Model Railroading, Petticoat Junction News, and Mark's new segment of Let's Go to the Local Hobby Shop. So those are two new things that we have coming up. Another new thing that we have coming up that's probably going to start, and I'm not sure of a date, but probably sometime early to mid-October, is the owner of Touch Toggles is going to do a short segment, 5 minutes, no more than 5 minutes, on a weekly basis, and talk about what on earth have they come up with now. And it's going to be an amazing segment, I think, because it's going to be almost a new product or a new idea every week of what you can do with Touch Toggles or the new things that he's come up with to produce new touch toggle capabilities. So I really do appreciate his interest in our show. And I think this is going to be something that is going to add a lot to our weekly shows, particularly for those of you that are into operation and want to simplify what's involved in wiring your railroad. We also have a lot of great build-alongs coming up in addition to the ones that we have going on right now. We have one from Hangman Creek Dioramas. This is the first diorama that we've done on the show, and it starts October the 26th. It's got a great discount, believe it or not, of 50% off the retail price. And this runs from October the 1st through November the 30th. You have to use the order code NewTraxMill for that. New Creations Victoria Railroad Buildings starting November the 16th. This is Alan Rogers, who owns New Creations, and he's going to be building his church that he's come up with. It's the Catholic Church of Ocean City, Maryland. He's offering 25% discount off the price of the kit It's available both O scale and HO scale. And that begins the beginning of November the 1st and ending December the 31st. So this is almost Merry Christmas kind of time with Alan. Then we have some great lighting by Darwin Lighting without wires, starting November the 23rd. Michael Groves is going to show us what his lighting without wiring can do for us and what the system is all about. Again, we've got a great discount of 20% off the regular price from October the 23rd through November the 23rd. So those are some of the build-alongs that we've got coming up with. And then we've got others that we've got scheduled all the way through April of next year already. So I really think that we're trying to cover the whole arena of what's available out there to you in model railroading, and trying our best to give you a variety of products and manufacturers and builders to learn from. So I hope you'll take advantage of these, because the manufacturers and the modelers who are doing the building on our show are spending a lot of their personal time to do these for us. So I really do appreciate their effort and their interest in our show, and hope you'll also show your interest by participating in the build-alongs. Our next My Bill, sponsored by Dan Daugherty and Amy Daugherty's company, Model Resource LLC, and we have a short video of their sponsorship that I'd like to run for you.
Welcome to the world of scale, O and S railroading. We are your resource for all O and S scale modeling. Both our magazines are advertiser supported and free to read online, download as a PDF, or even print. All advertisers are hot linked to their website, so if you see something you like, just click. Please check out our websites for the current issues. All back issues available free for the O-Scale Resource and the S-Scale Resource magazines. And, if you are a manufacturer, distributor, or retail establishment, please contact us through our website for advertising opportunities.
I really do appreciate Amy and Dan sponsoring this segment for us, because I write for both of their magazines, and they've been so nice to me and supportive of me in the past. I do appreciate them supporting this effort. Chris Corse, who owns Conowingo Models, is the host for these segments, and I'll turn it over to Chris. Chris, welcome.
Thanks, Jim. Get the slide up here real quick. The My Build is actually next week. We've got about I think about 5 or 6 participants, so it looks like it's pretty strong. But there's always room for more. So please send those photos to railrunner130@hotmail.com. And as always, remember, it doesn't need to be Michelangelo or anything like that. It doesn't need to be anything special. It could be maybe something you learned from, or something you screwed up, or something you can't figure out how to fix. Whatever it is, please bring it. Send me those photos. And if you have not participated before, also include a photo of yourself so that we can give you a title page. So I think that's about it. And I will turn it back over to you, Jim.
Thank you so much, Chris. I really do appreciate you doing this. How's the barge coming?
Actually, I've got it right. Well, it's not right here. It's about 10 feet away. It's actually looking pretty good. Got the depressed center flat car for it done. Well, just about done. It put it together. It needs one more little tweak, but that's no big deal. And in fact, if you want to hang on, I'll show it.
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
Sure.
Oh yeah, it's coming along pretty good.
Yep. Yeah, the waterline version is right behind it.
Is Dylan going to get you that part?
I haven't talked to him in a couple weeks, but I know he's diligently trying to get it designed up for me. So,
Well, best of luck. I think that's really going to be a unique model when you get it finished.
yeah, I hope so. And as soon as I saw it, it was like, oh, I got to do a kit of this. So hopefully other people will be as enthusiastic about it as I am.
Gotcha. Thanks so much, Chris. Well, now I'd like to turn to Gary Shurgold, MMR, for his bits and pieces. That is so becoming so very popular, Gary. You're really becoming a star here.
Thank you very much.
Assuming you can get started.
I'm sorry?
Assuming you get started.
Yes. Okay, screen 2. There we go. Whoops. I guess that didn't come up, eh?
I would think after doing this each week, you could at least press a button and get started.
Well, that's what I thought. I'm doing exactly what I was told to do. But for some reason, when I touch this screen 2.
There it is. Where you're up. Now throw it into slideshow mode.
Okay, I am up, am I?
Yep, there you are.
Okay, come on. There. Are
Perfect.
we there?
Perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, I have no idea what happens when I touch those buttons. I followed what Phil told me, but I'm not blaming Phil. It's me.
Your fingers are too big.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, potential railroad components and everyday objects. Get this going here, bits and pieces. And what we're going to talk about this week is wire. We use a lot of wire in model railroading. And here's a sample of some of the wires that I use. Now, this is electrical wire. And these here are very thin wire from craft stores that have to do with flower making. Same with the coil that sits here. Now the wire down here is for flower making, and it comes in a variety of different sizes. Now what I do with this wire here, which is green, is I use that for when I do handrails. Now this happens to be a kit that I had put together last year. And as you can see, this is the wire I use. And the reason I like it is it's very flexible. There's not a lot that has to be done when you're forming it because it forms beautifully. It's very soft wire and it forms very nice. This is the other side. And this model was given to a friend of mine, and he's going to make a TH&B locomotive out of it. Another thing I do is the round coil you saw right here. This is a very soft wire also. And I use it for banding tanks that I make. Mm-hmm. And what I do is I take it, pre-cut the bands, as you can see here, a little larger, like maybe an inch or so on each side. And I form them, and I know exactly there's going to be 6 bands on this tank. And what I do is I wrap them around the tank and to get the first one going. And I twist them, as you can see here, by hand. And then I take a pair of pliers and very carefully start tightening this band. And you will feel it tighten around the drum. And don't over tighten it, because if you do, it's going to snap off, which is no big deal. You just put another band on. And I just continue that all the way around. Now, what I do is I cut off a little, and I leave a little piece like this, which is really tightly band together. And as you can see, I fold that back onto the band, and that forms my little hookup that hooks the wires around the drum. And I could just keep on continuing this till I get the bands all the way down. Of course, they're near the bottom, they're a little closer. And here it is, the tank has got some wash put on it. And the bands, you can see them folded over. A little bit of weathering. And one of the things I do is I look for unusual things, and here we go. These are the pull-off tabs off of orange juice containers. We cut this off and we end up with a cap. And this cap is going to form the lid that goes on our container. Here I've got it stuck on a piece of painting tubing or wood stock with glue, and I got it ready for painting. I paint it, and here we are here. Do a little weathering on it, attach it to the unit. You can put it on a flat car. You can build a support underneath it, use it as a water tower, or you can make a couple more and use it in a transportation of vinegar, pickle barrels, or whatever you wish. And that, Jim, is bits and pieces for this week.
Well, I tell you, you taught me something else about how to do the wire around the tanks. I think that's a fantastic idea. I've never tried that, but
Yeah, I've been doing that for years, and
it's a great way to do it. It really is. And
yes,
I've used some of that floral wire because my wife buys that stuff all the time. And it, like you say, it's easy to work with and fantastic stuff.
Gary, question on the locomotive, on the handrails. How did you do the joins? Are they soldered?
The joints are put together with super glue.
Yeah.
The wire is very easy to work with. Yeah. Extremely easy.
And when I do it, I solder mine.
Yeah, well, I don't think you can solder this material.
That I use a little different kind of wire because the wire that I use comes with a coating on it. And I scrape the coating off, and that gets me down to the bare metal.
Okay.
But it's floral wire as far as I know, and my wife gets it in different sizes, so I thought it might be the same thing.
It could be. Like this has a coating too. You can take the green coating off, and then there's a bare wire underneath.
That's what I do. And once I've got the bare wire, then I just solder it like I would a brass, any piece of brass.
Yeah, like as I say, I've used it for a number of years, and I've never really had a problem with the railings coming off.
Yeah.
Unless it gets banged really bad.
The learning curve is learning how to bend it properly.
Yeah, you follow the patterns.
Yep. Thanks so much. We really appreciate it.
No problem.
1 second. So how does it hold up with handling?
I'm sorry?
On the locomotive, how does it hold up with handling?
Well, when I handle my locomotives, I try not to pick them up or handle the railings. I usually handle them by going down and maybe picking up by the fuel tank. But as I say, I've used that method for a number of years, and very seldom do I break them.
Okay, all right.
If they break, just super glue them back together and repaint them.
Okay.
All right, moving right. Thank you, Gary. I really do appreciate it. Like I say, it's obvious why your segments are getting so popular. I mean, you really are providing a tremendous amount of information, and the stuff that you're using is basically super cheap, if not free. So I really admire what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now I'd like to turn to let me see. That was that one. Now I need to go to Phil Edholm, and he's doing our NMRA local clubs and divisions segment. So Phil, I will turn it over to you, sir.
Welcome to model railroading. And as much fun as model railroading already is, there is one way you can make it even more fun and get even more out of it. and that's by becoming a member of the National Model Railroad Association, the world's largest model railroading organization. The NMRA is devoted to the development, promotion, and enjoyment of the hobby. The NMRA is 18 worldwide regions, which include North America, Australia and New Zealand, Britain, and Europe. These regions have annual conventions where modelers can swap ideas, tour prototypical industries and railroads, see model railroad layouts built by other members, and get to know fellow modelers from a wide geographical area. And on a more local level, the NMRA has over 150 local divisions all across North America. These are groups of modelers in nearby cities and counties who get together regularly for scheduled events, seminars, how-to clinics, or visits to other members' layouts. Chances are there's a regular NMRA division event not very far from where you live.
Well, thanks, Jim. We had a momentary message from our sponsor, but I think it's a really good message about all the options and various capabilities the NMRA has to offer. With that, what I'd like to do is welcome Fred Sword, and Fred is from Division 8, which is in the middle, kind of in the middle of the country, let's say. And so Fred has been incredibly active. He's currently he's a past superintendent, and currently I guess you're the associate or vice superintendent, assistant superintendent. So they didn't let you get very far away.
No.
So the whole focus for those of you who have not been through this segment is really to talk to people about what they're doing in their divisions and how they're interacting, how they're building value at the local level for modelers. And facilitating what we see at New Tracks as being, mentoring in the hobby, building relationships, teaching people. So I asked Fred to come on. He's been very active. So Fred, tell us first a little bit about the division and your role in the division.
Sure. And, at one time when I was growing up, I would have said that I'm currently living back east because I actually grew up on the peninsula. Started life at the city of San Francisco, lived in Brisbane, Cupertino, Los Gatos, and then went across the hill. And for those of you not from the area, like the hill, it's the Santa Cruz Mountains. And we lived over in Rio de Mar, Aptos area until I was a sophomore in high school. And then I made a couple trips back. So still kind of familiar with the area. Division 8, of course, is part of the mid-central region. And we are southern Indiana down through all of the middle of Kentucky and to the Tennessee border, which for most of you goes, it's about a 3-hour drive from the top to the bottom of that area, which quite honestly, for a lot of people here, seems like it takes forever. That's 3 hours. That's a long time. When I lived out on the West Coast, and my last active duty assignment was at the city of San Francisco, we would get up in the morning, go drive up to Tahoe 2-3 hours and be home that evening, think nothing of it. But a 3-hour drive out here seems like it is just an astronomical event for someone to do. So a lot of what we've done is survived through COVID and taken what we learned in COVID and moved forward with it. We went virtual very early, and we went hybrid as soon as we could. So I'll talk about it here in a few minutes, of course, but Division 8, for the most part, is a Louisville-centric organization. Louisville, Kentucky, of course, it's on the northern edge of Kentucky. If you draw a line left to right, it's about in the middle, but it's actually about 80% of our membership is about a 30-minute drive to downtown Louisville. So that's 80% of our membership in a 3-hour, north to south, about an hour east to west is within this core. So that's really where we hold most of all of our face-to-face meetings. We do some events outside of there, but for the most part, that's where we are. We are, as of today, 131 members strong. We've been significantly less than that, and years and years and years ago, stronger than that. But in the last year, we have amazingly enough, been able to grow by 5%. So we must be doing something right. Because I'm also the Mid-Central Region Secretary because I just didn't have enough to do as superintendent or assistant superintendent. So I took on that role. So I know the numbers throughout the rest of the region and actually throughout the rest of the NMRA as well. And that's a pretty good number to be looking at. So
Very
that's
good.
kind of a little overview of Division 8. Real quick, we hold a couple meetings a month, a couple of scheduled meetings a month. We have what I think most everybody does is a standard membership business meeting. And we have tweaked that over the last couple of years. When I first came in as a superintendent, I said, we're not going to stop doing anything, but we're going to look at things we're doing and see if they add value or not. And if they don't, then we need to either get rid of them or find a way to make them part of something else. And no matter what we do, we need to streamline. So our business meetings, we're going 45 minutes to an hour. We got them down to 20 to 30 minutes. Great. How did we do that? We took a lot of the standard committee reports that really didn't change from month to month and put them in our newsletter. We put them online. If you want to read about it, it's there. If you don't want to read about it, it's not there. You certainly don't have to get up there to listen to somebody talk about the same thing for 5-10 minutes on each of those. And then we do a 5-minute break to reset, and then we do a clinic/presentation. And our clinics and presentations run the gamut. We don't do, no, let me back up. We haven't done a lot of hands-on cooperative learning events where we have people all join in and do something at the same time. Couple reasons for that. It was a little challenging for us to do hybrid meetings in that way and make sure everybody had all the right stuff and supervise them and so forth. And the building that we're in really, the people who own the building really didn't want us bringing paints and glues and so forth in there for a lot of people to use. As a demo, that's one thing, but for a lot of people to do it, that just wasn't going to happen. So anyway, we do a clinic/presentation that lasts, I don't know, anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour. We've been fortunate to be able to use Zoom to bring in people remotely, just as you do here. We just had the Dwarven folks in last month to do our meeting, and this month we have someone coming in from NMRA, Riley Triggs. If you know Riley, he's the publication guy for responsible for getting the NMRA magazine online. Yay for that! And he's going to come in and talk to us about all the things that the NMRA has online. And there's no other way we could get him in there to do that. And we have another presentation from someone local. We've had Gordy Robinson attend our meeting twice. Once he just popped in for a few minutes, talked to us for 10, 15 minutes. And another one, he just kind of watched as someone else presented because he was curious about what was going on. Now, the other meeting we hold during the month is what we call the gathering. And it kind of sounds like a little science fiction, the gathering, but it's really not. We wanted it to be less formal. So we're not looking for someone to come in with a PowerPoint deck and speaker notes and a polished presentation. We want to see what you're working on. You know, if what you're working on is this, and that's all the further you got with it, that's great. If what you finish is, you know, a craftsman model, that's great too. If you come up with some great technique, that's fine. Tell us what you did in 15, 20 minutes and let us ask 5 to 10 minutes worth of questions. Take 2 or 3 of those in an hour and we're done. A little bit of chit chat in the front, a little bit of chit chat in the back. Now we do that the first 2 months of the quarter. The third month of the quarter, the gathering is not there. We do a bull session, and it's just what it sounds like, except that we make one rule. Whatever the conversation is, it has to be railroad related. It could be prototype, it can be model, but let's keep it in that channel. Let's not diverge and get out there and talk about world events or politics and so forth. So, you know, the question I've always had asked of me is how many people show up to the meeting? And my answer is that's a complicated answer, quite honestly. We have the hybrid meetings or the business meeting clinic. We have between 15 and 25 people show up to our monthly meeting now. And I'm talking post-COVID. Let's not talk pre-COVID because Things were different then. So post-COVID, we have 15 to 25 people show up in the room. We have another 15 to 25 show up online. Now, we don't have 25 and 25. Okay, we've never had 25 in the room and 25 online. So you can say we have around 30 to 40 people show up for a meeting. But that's not really true because we post all of our meetings except for the bowl session. Bowl session does not. But all of our meetings go up to YouTube the next day. So our meetings are Saturday. By Sunday night, that meeting is online. And within a week, we get about 25 more views. And within a month, we get a total of 50 more. So you tell me, how many people show up to my meeting? And I don't know. I know how many people show up in person, but I don't know how many people really show up. I think it's about 50. And that's what we're going with right now. We never had that pre-COVID. There was no way we could do it pre-COVID. We think that a hybrid meeting is here. It's going to stay. We're not going to go away from it unless we're forced to. We are very fortunate in where we are right now that we have an awesome room. We have great electronics, great presentation in there. We have 2 Wi-Fi networks that are open to us. Unfortunately, we're losing this facility at the end of this year because building management has changed and they're no longer going to allow outside groups. We've got a line on 2, 3 other places, so we're going to be fine. We're going to continue to do that. It's great for the hybrid part because of several things. And I think this has really helped our people continue to be engaged over the last couple of years and will continue in the future. By making it hybrid, we not only had that extra 15 people come in, we got people who are in that way south part of our division that are a good 2 hours away. Think about it. It's a 2-hour drive to get to us for an hour-and-a-half meeting and then another 2-hour drive home. Right. It doesn't sound very economical to me, cost effective. Well, I can not only have people presenting from around the world, I can have members from anywhere in my division, and I can be somewhere else as well. We held one meeting where I was the superintendent and I was in Minnesota conducting a meeting from Minnesota for my grandson's bedroom, for crying out loud. How cool is that? Last January during a gathering, I was in Florida walking around with my iPhone at the Cocoa Beach RPM meet. I did it's about a 25-minute segment on the RPM meet because most of our people have never been to an RPM meet. And what a cool way to introduce it to them, walk around, show them the displays, and actually stop and talk to some of the people and do a little impromptu interview. Well, it looked like it was impromptu, but really, I talked to the guys ahead of time and made sure it was okay to come and talk to them and do it. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we're doing on a month-to-month basis.
So just out of curiosity, it sounds like you do a lot of small events.
We do.
Versus kind of the bigger event with multiple clinics and layout tours and all that kind of thing. Yes. Do you get the same people typically event to event? So it's becomes very much
Yeah, out of 131 people, we never see about 40 of them. Now, some of those people are life members. They've been life members forever. And for some reason, they just don't respond to us when we've reached out to them in a variety of ways. And that's the way it goes. Some people are a member of one of the 100% NMRA clubs in town, and they're not interested in being part of what we do on a week-to-week or month-to-month basis. They are really there to run trains on that club layout. And we acknowledge that. But of course, the people who are at the club are also NMRA members. In fact, a couple of them are members of our Division 8 board. So there is a crosswalk there, and some people have come across as well. But you're right, we don't do a lot of big day-long events. We did a Louisville Train Day a couple of years ago, which was bring modular layouts in, open it up, free to the public and so forth. We did a day-long event with the Boys and Girls Club of Louisville, and that went very well. We didn't have as many as we would have liked to have had, but we started out with some open layouts in the morning, modular layouts. It was at one of the hobby shops in town, helped us do that. They had facility available. We bought them a pizza lunch, and then we sat them down, and they all built a blue box, an Atherton blue boxcar, and with Katie couplers though. Okay, so we enhanced it a little bit. We do 2 trade shows a year. That's not the standard month to month, obviously, but those are our big events of the year. We do one in the fall, we do one in the spring. They're day long, and we keep increasing the attendance. Mike Berry's on here. He's our treasurer. He can tell me exactly how many people attended, but it's around 500 people who attended, and that's paid at the gate. That doesn't count dealers. That doesn't count children who get in free. But paid at the gate, about 500 people right now. And again, that's fall and spring.
Yeah, it's interesting being in a market where you probably don't have some of the more national trade shows come and show up. And so it's possible to have something. So I noticed there were a lot of volunteers. It seemed like with 130 members, you got a good volunteer. What advice would you give of how to get volunteers involved and active and in a division like you have?
That's a very easy question, actually. You look them in the eye and say, I have a job for you. How do you feel about doing this? Now, you don't do that at the first meeting when they come in the door, but you get to know them. You got to feel them out and see what their skills are and so forth. And you just say, hey, you know what? I know you have these skills. We'd really like you to do this. We'd like you to help us with this. Is there any possibility? Sometimes they have to think about it, and sometimes they just volunteer right there. And it sounds like a silly thing, but it's the way the work. I think that's the best way to make it work. Gordy and Christine and I have gone around a couple times offline about the power of social media. And I'm a firm believer in it, but nothing beats face-to-face talking to.
Uh-oh.
I think we lost him.
Fred, I think we lost you. You looks like you locked up. Well, I think with that, Jim, we'll probably, there was only a couple of questions I had left, and I was I'm going to ask about local recruiting, but it sounds like being able to run 2 train shows a year, I mean, that makes obviously the recruiting becomes pretty easily built into that. So I think with that, Jim, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to you. A big thanks to Fred for coming on. Oh, you are back.
I'm back. Who knows what happened?
Oh, there we go. So I was getting ready to close. The question I was going to ask, the last question I was going to ask was really, I'd actually answered. It was around recruiting and realizing that you run 2 train shows a year that are the main train events for the whole community or urban area, let's call it. You kind of control the messaging there and that. So I don't think that's probably a biggie. I guess what I'd ask is, what unique learnings, you've been doing this for a while, what unique learnings, advice would you want to, if there were 1 or 2 things you said, here's the thing I've learned that I think is most important to creating the success. And I think the 5% growth is a phenomenal success.
Yeah, a couple of things. We are not the only game in town, and we acknowledge that. But so we work with the other groups in town, and the other groups really are the model railroad clubs. We work very well with them. We schedule around their events. They schedule around our events. We work with neighboring divisions as well. We have a super relationship with the ones that are right next door to us. And I don't know when I faded out, but what I was saying before is it's that face-to-face communication. If you don't have that, you can do all the electronics you want. You can do all the gee whiz technology. You don't have people. You've got to be able to talk to them. The reason we have that 5% is because we talked to people, and not only the people who are on the board, but people within our group talk to other people as well. The last 3 members we brought in were because of one of our members who joined because a wife of one of our people who passed away said, let me tell you how well Division 8 took care of me and took care of my family and cared about us when my husband passed away, which is, I think that's the way we're supposed to be.
Super. Well,
Yeah.
Thanks, Fred. I think that's a great wrap up to a great discussion. And Jim, with that, I'll throw it back to you. And thank Fred again.
You bet.
And Fred, if you can see your way clear, I hope that you'll put some information on your website or something about our show and encourage your members to view us if they're interested in this kind of discussion. The more the merrier. And we do appreciate so much your participation this evening.
We will do that. One of the things we do to keep in contact with our folks, we send out a Monday morning email that says, hey, here's some YouTube videos that Fred found that were kind of cool. So you put this online, it will be in that message. And then we also send out an information update on Wednesdays. And that's why we got a couple people in here today. So,
oh, that's fantastic.
Excellent.
I sure appreciate it.
You bet.
Thanks again.
And
Hey,
Phil,
Jim, before you move on,
I'll count on you to be able to do that for us.
before we move on, one thing for everyone who's here tonight and who happens to see this video online, I'll put my email in the chat. If you know someone we should be talking to, just put their email address and name in and send me an email and I'll contact them. I think as you see, the more and more folks we get involved, it's just a great opportunity to learn and put those learnings together. And once we have these in place, we're going to be able to actually, I think, sift through them and kind of synthesize some great ideas. I saw, for example, tonight, a huge difference between the direction we've been going in the Coast Division, which is to have virtual events fairly regularly and physical events on a quarterly basis. So this idea of, do you have a physical event that's monthly and gets a smaller group of people that builds the same kind of thing we built virtually in the physical world. So I think we're always learning. So again, I'll put my email in there. Send me an email. I hope to hear from some of you. Thanks, Jim. Back to you.
Thanks so much, Phil. You're doing a great job with this. And I do hope that the people are paying attention to what's really happening at a local level, because the reason I think this is important, this is how I met my mentors. This is how I met the really outstanding modelers that helped me over my lifetime. So that's why I think that this is important. Well, now let's turn to Martin Breckbild, MMR, who's building this ore car. And you're getting a lot of attention on this build, Martin, so thank you so very much.
This is actually getting attention. Disturbing, yeah. Terribly disturbing.
I watched it, and two of my closest friends.
Oh, okay, we're up to 3. Okay, that's let's see. Okay, and there we are, I hope. So this is part 3 or part 4, depending on how you're counting, but I think it's the part end by the time we get to the last slide with a little bit of luck. So let's see where we're going here. Yes, okay, so this is where we left off last week. We've got a pile of detail parts to get to and stuff to install and finish this car up. And this is where we left off. We just put the hatch doors on the bottom of the car. And now we have to put all the stuff that's missing in place. And all that missing stuff's in the baggie of metal detail parts. So here's all the white metal parts that Jim dreads having to deal with, but they're not that terrible or heinous in this particular case. What's in the baggie? Not that many parts. I keep these once opened in a little glass dish, so when I knock things on the floor, everything falls on the floor in one unit or doesn't go off into space too badly. Usually I set these things way back on the workbench so I can pick out what I need very, very carefully, as opposed to losing things. Because I will tell you, some of these parts are prone to having pretty good aerodynamics. And once in flight, next to impossible to locate. I don't care what kind of shop you have. You'll hear it rattling around and hit things, but you won't find it on the floor until you step on it three weeks later. Sort of like a Lego. So you're gonna put the bolsters in. So you take those out of the laser cut page of wood. You file a bevel on the ends, roughly 45. I didn't measure it. If you really want to get that specific to worry about that, you can, but sanding stick, you're done. Pads, and the coupler pads, just glue those onto place, coupler blocks, these blocks that go on the end. There's actually lines on the outside of the bolsters that show you exactly where they go, so it's pretty hard to put them in the wrong place. So the hinges, so they're white metal hinges. These are actually pretty clean and tidy little castings. A little bit of goo, a little bit of CA, drop them into place. They overlap on the hatch door versus the frame. They snap right into place. The queen posts are a little tricky. There's no sprue with these. Let's back up. Yeah, so you can see there's no sprue here. You got a flat to flat connection to make, so it's a little tricky. It's nice to have the queen post with a sprue, so you have a bolt that'll go into a hole and help you hold it in place. This is one of those places where I definitely put just a little bit of goo, a little bit of CA, and wait an hour or two and come back, make sure it's really nice and tight. So you get the queen post in place. Okay, truss rods, there's brass wire supplied. There's even a template to show you how to bend the brass wire. It just goes into the frame over here, into the frame over here, up and over. Drop actually I put a little bit of goo on each end and CA in the middle. You're done. It's about as straightforward as it can get. The brake mounting pads, you have to cut those out of the laser cut page as well. There's little marks on here, the critical little marks I kept reminding you about last week or the week before. Make sure you know where they are. That's where those parts go. They drop right into place on the little lines. A little bit of glue, you're done. They drop in nice and clean. Okay, so the brake castings, they just get glued right into place. A little bit of goo, a little bit of CA, they drop right in. You have to drill this out and put this little clevis arm into the hole in the end, but that's not a big deal to do. Make sure you measure that with your calipers so you get a right size drill. Chain roller mechanisms, these. You have to be careful. There are 3 that look the same. I'll go back. You can see there's 3 of these. This one's got a hole in it. Don't use that one. That's not the chain roller. That's for the brake gear. So they look very, very similar. They're not quite. This just gets glued into place here. A little CA and goo. It's done. The ladders, they pop right out of the laser cut. Clean them up with a little bit of sanding or scalpel and sanding, whichever you want. A little carpenter's glue. You're done. Just remember, okay, so now you know this points. That's the end where the brake wheel goes. Don't put the brake wheel at the other end. So there's always your pointer. It tells you where that next part goes. So, because up to this point, we had no real idea where it was going unless you really looked at those lines and thought about it a lot. But this makes it pretty foolproof. Now you know where you put your brake wheel. So, so everything's glued into place. You can see how these fit now, looking down from the top. And they drop right in. This one's a little tricky because it's spanning just these 2 little thin pieces. So a little bit of goo, a little CA, drop it in there, wiggle it into place. It fits very cleanly. You may have to take a fine file to the 2 feet, one on each end, just to make sure they're nice and clean and flat, so they'll sit on the supports nicely. Once in, they're done. They're not going anywhere. Okay, there's NBW castings. These are white metal NBWs, not the styrene ones that we're all familiar with. I have fair warning, these have incredibly good aerodynamics. It's impressive how fast they can fly into the air. You know, I did not lose any this time. The prior car that I built, which was the larger hopper, these went flying right into space, and I just replaced them with T-sheet parts. That's okay. But if you don't have T-sheet parts in your shop, be really careful with these. It turns out I have a very specific pair of pliers. I did not know these would work so well, but they actually have a very, very flat jaw, flat line profile, and they actually grip the nut castings very cleanly in O-scale. So I've learned how to use a tool that I had on my bench for about 10 years properly finally. Okay, so I can't read my slide, but that's okay. So you're going to glue these top boards on. Got to put those on both ends, little carpenter's glue. You need a little loop to go through the 2 holes in the hatch doors. Some of that brass wire. I actually formed this working from the other side. It's a little hard to form it and test fit it from this side, but the other side has the same spacing as this side. So you flip it over, form it from the other side, pull it back out, put it back in this side, glue it in place. You need a piece of brass wire. Remember, there were holes in the sides that you had to get aligned. They're twice the thickness of the sides. And that butts up against the outside frame. You could drill through this if you really wanted to. I didn't bother, but you just cut the brass wire just long enough to span this, and it'll snap into place. So you either drill out your brake wheel, run a piece of brass wire through it. You have this ratchet and pawl casting, the third casting. This one slides right onto the wire. You drill a hole through the end of the end sill. Pick the right end sill. Make sure you're at the right end. You glue the ratchet and pawl casting to the end board. Thread the shaft through it, down through the end sill. 2 drops of CA later. It's all one unit. You're done. And that's what it looks like when you're done. I actually ran it all the way through. I drilled it up from the bottom up. And that's something you could do. You could drill this before you glued it on, but you could just drill from the bottom up. It won't matter. A hole that goes all the way through is still a hole that goes all the way through. It'll work either way. Okay. This is where you may test your metal just a shade. How nimble your fingers are. Getting a piece, that chain that's supplied has to go through that loop. I'll pass it through it once or twice. Put a drop of CA on it. Don't let the chain hang down in the loop, down into the puddle of CA. Hang it over the side. Let the CA dry. Then pull the chain up. Wrap it around the cross wire a few times. Nip off the excess. Secure it with CA. You're done. There's a center cross piece. Okay, so I can't mess with it. I had to mess with it a little bit, so I added some extra NBWs that I had from Tishi. I don't remember which ones they are. 8034s, I think, whatever that means. That's the number that jumped into my brain. It's probably right. So I just drilled those in there and drilled holes and dropped those in just because I thought something's got to hold those boards in place. Okay, steps. There's 2 steps, one at each end, one at each corner. These are flush mounted to the underbody. It's a flat metal to wood connection again. This is again where I use a little bit of goo, throw a little CA, pull it apart, throw a little CA in, put it back together, come back in an hour. Because you really don't want to disturb this. You really want this to set up really strong. Otherwise, these are just going to snap right back off. And this is not my favorite way of having steps. Normally, I would actually suggest drilling a hole in these and then driving a regular pin through the stirrup up into the wood. It's generally what I do because otherwise they just snap off. And then I threw some extra NBWs on the ladder. Something has to hold the ladder on more than glue. So that just dresses that up a little bit. Okay. Stain, paint, etc. Okay. First step, I just stained the entire car. Get a big 1/2-inch brush and I just slop Minwax stain on it. I don't know what Minwax it is because, as I said, it's the mystery Minwax bottle. When I clean out a can of Minwax, I clean it out into this bottle. I just dump it in. And this bottle is a moving target. So it's always something dark and gloomy. It's got ebony, it's got walnut in it, it's got pine in it, it's got mahogany in it, it's got cherry in it. It's got some of everything in it. And if the level goes down too far and I don't have Minwax to add, I just dilute it with some more lacquer thinner, not worry about it. but it makes a good undercoat. And it's a good way to get rid of old Minwax. And you come back in a day and take it out in the garage in the driveway and hit it with the red primer, not a rattle car. That's what I drive. You spray with a rattle can. Third step, just touch up everything, a little bit of the ironwork here and there with some steam black. That's poly scale. That's what I like to use for detail and touch up bits. Add some borrowed trucks. I borrowed some trucks from my son since I don't have trucks this scale. And I had to go visit him and borrow a HO car and steal the trucks off of it for this car. So that's what you end up with. The stain does help those boards pop out so you can actually see the individual boards now. The laser cutting, the etching in that is not obvious until a resin impregnated board. But once you stain it, it gathers a lot of the grime from the Minwax and it settles in and it begins to look like all boards. And pretty much what a can of red primer will do. And you come back and eventually I guess I don't have a picture where I touched up things. So I painted the brake wheel and the steps and probably some other odds and ends like the chain, but not much else. And I left it all red. And I don't have any couplers because even the HO couplers look a little funky and weird on this. They're too small. So, for ON30, it's a great little car. It's a fun little build. It's easy. Good novice, beginner, intermediate kit builder will have no problems with this whatsoever. You just follow the instructions as they're written. They're very nice and clear. I know that's a novelty to many people that have clear, concise instructions that actually are correct. There may be one or two places where the size of drill it says to drill things out with, that's obviously from HO. So you may want to have to, every now and then you want to make sure, you might want to measure that piece of wire to make sure it's match the right drill bit to it. But other than that, it's a fun little build and a nice little car. You could dress this up a lot more, put all kinds of other gusset plates and NBWs and all the intersection places where the beams go together. You could hit this lightly with all kinds of hammers and stuff to distress it. You could put a load in it or not. It's a lot of possibilities. It's a lot of fun. So I actually had fun putting it together. And that's where we're going to stop. And if you've got questions, start screaming them.
Martin, I noticed the interior of the car is not painted red. Did you mask that before you hit it with the rattle can?
Yeah, a little piece of painter's tape, a little piece of blue painter's tape, quick mask job, and yeah.
Nice job.
Thank you.
That's a beautiful little model you made, Martin. And it sounds like it's simple enough where anybody could build it.
Yeah, this is a nice basic kit. And,
yeah.
I just wish he would make them in full O scale. I'd probably get a half a dozen of them right away, just for fun. But even if he doesn't, I could probably just take the ON30 one and do a little measuring and just scratch build a half a dozen. But it's a fun little car.
So Martin, just one final question. So as being not an aficionado of glue mixing, so I guess I'm just curious, do you do that on like normally I put a dot of glue out on a paper and use a toothpick or something for application? Go through the process you do to apply those together, glue and ACC.
Okay, the glue goes on usually on the non-porous or on the porous surface. It's too small an area to do that, so actually I put it on like the steps. Use those as an example. Put a little bit of glue on the two pieces of each step, tack it into place, take it back off. I have an ultra fine tip on my CA. It's 1/10 of a millimeter. and just put a little bit of CA on the two pieces of the step, put it back in place where you took it from. Don't put it someplace new, but put it back into the goo. I don't know the chemistry behind it. I'm not an adhesives chemist, not one of my areas. And I learned long ago, metal and wood, when CA and goo get together, they have a very, very enthusiastic party together, and it gets very, very tight very, very quickly.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's about, you get it right the first time, or you're going to be taking a scalpel or a razor saw to get it apart.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Martin, thanks so very much. You did a beautiful job once again.
Thank you, Jim.
Well, now let's turn to Greg Cassidy, who's building the Motrac model fire station in S-scale. Greg, welcome.
Hi, Jim. Let me bring everything up. I have that. I have my pointer, and if you can all see, we're now starting week 2. So if you recall, we're building the Alton Bay fire station from Motrac Models. I'm building it in S scale. It's available in N, HOS, and O, and hopefully there's some of all these out there, and most of them will go together pretty much the same way. So today we'll be covering assembling and painting the walls, and painting and assembling the doors, and there's a reason those are in a different order, and we'll be painting the corner trim. Now, as you recall from last week's episode, this kit is supplied with both inner and outer walls. The outer walls are from clapboard milled stock, and they have the grain running this way, as almost all clapboard does. And the inside walls is just straight basswood, and the way Jeff cut it, the grain is running this way. So when you put the outer and the inner walls together, you have grain running in both directions, and you have some really nice plywood, and it's very stiff. And that means that as you put this kit together, you don't need to do any bracing on it. And that's a really neat option if you decided you wanted to detail the interior of this, because there's nothing that spoils a nicely detailed interior like bracing. So the first thing I did, I put together the inner and outer walls. I didn't glue them, I just put them together so that all the tabs lined up and taped it. I wanted to see how all the tabs go together and how it fit into the base. So a little bit of tape on all 4 corners just to see how it goes together and how the tabs work. And you can see here what I'm talking about. The inner walls, in this case, have 2 tabs, and the outer walls have 3 tabs. So when you put it together, whether it's flat or it's actually a corner, the inner tabs fit each other and the outer tabs fit each other. So the one thing I figured was I don't want to just glue the inner and outer walls together, each as a separate unit, and then find out maybe I was a touch off and the tabs didn't fit together. So as I was gluing the inner and outer walls together, I'd make sure I had it lined up and held up against another wall with another set of tabs, so that as the glue was setting up, all of the tabs from one wall to the next wall were fitting together. So I'd put a little glue on the outer wall, I'd move my block and put it against the inner wall while it's sitting in these tabs, put the block back up against it and let it sit like that. Now the corners are not glued, it's just the walls being glued to each other. And then I did that again with the second wall. And in this case, I'm gluing the inner and outer of the side walls together, and I have the tabs from both ends holding them aligned so that I'm sure as the glue sets up, all the tabs will fit together. And I'm glad I did that. It worked out perfectly when I went to put it together, and I usually don't have that kind of forethought, so I was lucky this time. So once I had all 4 of my wall sections glued together, I started painting them. And as I said when we were doing the tower,
I didn't want the paint to look new. I wanted it to look a little worn, but it's a fire station. It's not going to look dilapidated. So I did some dry brushing on, and this kind of shows you what it looks like. It's not a nice, heavy, fresh coat of paint, but it isn't peeling and rotting away either. And that's what the kind of look I was going after for my fire station. So then I did the same thing with the other 3 walls, just dry brushing on the paint and let them sit aside. And obviously, with the 2 pieces of wood, I didn't have to worry about any warping, and I didn't need to do any bracing. And you can see here the variation that you get with the dry brushing, and yet it really doesn't look like the paint's peeling or anything. I've done a couple other buildings where the paint just, it looks like it hadn't been painted in a decade. And I didn't want this to be one of them. So while they were drying, I went to paint the roof trim, and the trim that goes underneath the roof are together on 1 fret of wood. So I put my paint on them, again, trying to dry brush it on. And then I used the red to paint the fish scales that we have here that sit inside our insert there. Now, once they were dry, I went to cut them out. The easiest way was to just cut apart the fret. That way it wasn't putting any stress on it. And then these 4 tabs hold the 2 pieces together. And what you actually have here is the front and the back pieces of roof trim. Now, once they're cut out, you have the little areas where the frets were that held them together. And I'll always take a sanding stick to that and sand them off. Don't hold it the way I'm holding it while you sand it. I was just holding it for the picture, but you want to actually hold this piece while you're sanding it, or else it'll probably break like a turkey wishbone. So once you have these done, this is what you have. This is the front roof trim, and this is the back roof trim. And I hit them lightly with my sanding stick because the paint had gone on just a little too even, and I didn't want it to stand out as being different from the walls. So now we put the stain over the paint the same way we did on the tower. And this is kind of a light stain, and it was just to add a little bit of blending to our paint. And you can see that I then put the stain on all of the walls, and you're just basically putting it over the paint. And it helps give it a little bit more of a weathered look, but it still doesn't look too worn. Now, the way that the inner and outer walls were made, there's a place for the roof trim on both the end walls. And this is where you have the inner wall right here, and the trim will glue to that. And the reason these are separate pieces, think about it. This is clapboard, and this is just flat wood. It couldn't be made as one piece. So I glued both of those in place and then just clamped them with some clamps while they were drying. And now I came back and stained those as well. I wanted them to be glued in place while I put the stain on because there wasn't anything else holding them. And even though it's not really thin wood, once it's glued in place, it's not going to bend or warp or anything. So putting the stain on after it's glued in place didn't hurt anything. Now we're going to be painting and assembling the doors. And you see in the previous one, we assembled and then painted the walls. And here we're painting and assembling the doors. We're going to paint them first. Now they come with some other parts in it that we'll get to in a future week. But what you have here are the front doors to the building. These are the inner parts and the outer parts, the outer trim parts. So I was going to paint the outer trim white first, and I just put some tape over the other pieces so in case I was sloppy with my brush or something, I wouldn't get it on it. If you've ever had any paint that has been sitting for a while and gets kind of thick, I've got one of these little Micromark paint mixers. They really do a good job, and they're really pretty cheap, and I haven't killed the batteries in mine yet, and I've had it for quite a few years. So I found it very useful, and it this paint was quite thick until I mixed it up, and then it went on pretty nice. So I went ahead and just used my brush and painted them on. I didn't try dry brushing them, and I'll show you why in a little bit. After I painted them and the paint was dry and I cut them out, I did a little bit of distressing on them. I've got a wire brush and I just hit them very lightly with a coarse sanding stick. And that puts a little bit of distress and also puts some grain into the wood. And now it was time to paint the inner door red. So I used the signal red that I had and I put it on. And I did do a little bit of dry brushing effect here because this is going to be seen a little more easily than the white paint on the wood. And then after all those had dried, I just glued the outer trim onto the inner door, made sure they were all lined up, and I used a little bit of my Aleene's tacky glue for putting that on. And you can see here the effect of distressing the wood. It gets a little bit of a wood grain in it, and you can see the paint on the inner door doesn't look like it's in dire need of painting, but it looks like it's been around for a little while. And then I went over it with the greige stain as well. And you can see here the difference between the one that was stained and the one that isn't stained. And it just adds a little bit of the accumulated dirt and crud that an inner city building is going to get. And the last thing we're going to tackle is our corner trim. Now, the corner trim for the S scale is angled strip wood, and it is for the O scale as well. I believe for the HO and the N scale, it's just square strip wood that fits inside. And while I haven't seen the walls for those kits, I don't think they have the tabs on the outside, so they have a place for it. But anyway, what we're going to do with it here is the same, regardless of which type of trim it is. I went ahead and used my gray paint and did some dry brushing on them. And this came out pretty much looking the same as the walls do, because the dry brushing had the same effect on it. Sometimes I find the consistency of your paint can sometimes affect how easily or difficult it is to use the dry brush method on it. So the next thing is the trim around the door. And this is the same in all the kits. And it's basically just a red frame. So it's one piece of square strip wood. And I just painted it red. And then afterwards, I stained it. And you can see I did a little dry brushing on it, so it wasn't completely solidly red. And when you have a piece to stain like this, the thing I do is I just dip it in my bottle, let it sit for a few moments, pull it out, turn it over and dip it in again, and it's stained. So we have all of those pieces drying now, and that'll be the end of tonight. Next week, we'll be painting and assembling the windows, installing the windows, and then assembling the walls. So does anyone have any questions?
Greg, that seems like that kit's going together fairly easily for you too. I mean, that seems like an easy kit to build.
It is. We need more challenges here. Where's the white metal?
Well, thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you, Jim.
Next time you'll have to pick something harder. Well, now I want to introduce Kristen Kimmick, who with her husband owns 3DP Train, which is a 3D design and printing company. And if you remember, Kristen is going to be the host for our Petticoat Junction news segment on women in model railroading that we're going to start October the 19th. And also keep in mind that their company has offered a 10% discount for printing all of the bridge parts that Earl Hackett has shown you how to design with 3D software on our past shows. So Kristen, welcome. So nice to see you tonight.
Yep. My husband had to step out. He might be back. We have 6 children, so he was putting them to bed. So I'm just gonna briefly talk about how we got started. My husband got involved in trains very early on in his life. His dad did S-gauge trolleys and also did some American Flyer. So he was inundated with trains growing up. When we met, I didn't know about the trains. It was a surprise once we got married that he was into trains. Very early on, he really fell in love with the narrow gauge. And so a lot of what he designs is the narrow gauge stuff. When we got together, I had no idea anything about model trains or anything to do with it. So I just kind of watched him do what he was doing, and little by little I kind of got into it, and I caught the bug for scenery. And so that's kind of where I fell in love with the hobby, is doing all the scenery and coming up with different techniques. So he started designing models, and he found a company that was printing them through their service. And so he would design them and print them. And through that process, there was a button to click that you could have other people buy your models. And so he clicked the button, and not thinking anything of it, let it go. And a couple of years later, we got our first sale, and it kind of snowballed from there. Fast forward about 10 years now. He had a whole bunch of models, and when the company went through some redistribution and new management, and our prints doubled in price on the site. And at this point, we had pretty steady customers. And so we looked at each other and we're like, are we going to let this fall apart, or are we going to bring the printers in-house? And so we decided to make the leap and buy our first printer and bring the 3D printing in-house. And our business kind of exploded from there. So now 3DP Train offers our print service to other people who are into modeling. So on our website, we have about 17 different vendors, and vendors are coming on board all the time now as well. We have new vendors, and that's kind of where we started. So I'm actually going to give you a quick tour of our brand spanking new, if I can figure this out, print room. In July, we actually, oh no, hold on, technical difficulties. All right, so this is our print room. So these are our first printers. These print on a build plate that is that large.
Kristen, try running your hand in front of the camera, because it's still defocused. Yeah.
Oh, hold on. I think it's because I had a background. Hold on. Let me.
Yeah, turn. Well.
There we go.
Oh, the blur. That's what it was.
There we
Okay.
go. All
yeah,
right.
there you go.
So these are they're three small printers. So this printer will print this tall, and anything that fits on this build plate. Then these are our washes, and then the cures are up here. We do have a small filament printer that's up there. It mainly runs like extra stuff. So we have printed the universal throttle boxes with it, which we sell, but also these are like to hold our build plates and things. So also industrial stuff for us. This is our giant printer. It is actually running a print. It's very anticlimactic because it prints upside down. So right now it's in the bed. We won't be able to see anything on this print for probably another, well, it's 1 day, 1 hour. So probably in about 18 hours, we'll be able to see something, but everybody asks us why we don't bring our printers to train shows to show them. And this is why, because this is all it would do. this is a wash for that machine, because if you can see, the build plate for this one is the entire length, and it'll print all the way up to here. So it's about 18 inches by 12 inches by 8 inches. So it'll actually print like full, like helmets and things for people who are into cosplay. It prints full scale ON30 cars. This is going to be our workstation. It's still a work in progress. We've only been in here for about 3 weeks, so we're still in the process of cleaning and organizing and getting it done. But we actually have orders printed and shipped. We shipped our first order out earlier this week. So we're getting there. It's a slow process, but moving from Michigan to Tennessee was a big step. So we've been able to make that leap and, still produce things. So I think that's about it for us. We have been going to more trade shows. We're actually scheduled to go to Michigan in October. We're going to Mississippi in November. We're going to the National Narrow Gauge Show in Colorado, and we'll probably end up at the NMRA show in Texas. So big things coming from us, hopefully soon.
Anybody have any questions for Kristen? Kristen, I've got one.
Yes.
I've always looked at 3D printing as production on demand kind of reality. In other words, there's no point in having an inventory. Somebody orders a part, you put it on the printer and you print it. Is that right?
Yep. So we don't actually have an inventory. All of our products are print on demand. We ask for 14-day business days for lead time because we don't have anything on in stock. It just doesn't work that way. I believe we're up to about 200 different items on our website. So the idea of being able to come up with an inventory for that is just not feasible. What we do is at trade shows, we have displays. So if you give me 1 second, I will grab one of our displays. So all of our cars we print for our shows are in O scale or ON30. So they're pretty hefty. And we have them out for display. And then we have the ability to order right at the show. So people can order what they like and we'll ship it to them. We also bring what we called our boneyard. So we take customer service and customer satisfaction very highly. If something's not exactly perfect, we will put it in the boneyard and we will give it at a discount. So we had, I think, 5 Rubbermaid containers of all of these misprints, and some of them literally had like a dot that didn't print correctly in them, but literally would take 5 seconds to fix and paint and be a great model. We didn't want to sell it full price, so we put it in the boneyard. People were snatching them up at their last train show like hotcakes. So we have continued to do that now. So anytime we have a misprint, we just hold on to it and we sell them at our shows. So you can walk away from our table with something in your hand. It's just going to be a misprint at that point. But people have really enjoyed that hunt as well.
Let me ask you this. Can I order the boneyard on your website or online?
Not at this time, just because there's so many different things. We just have been putting those into a container to sell at shows.
I got you.
So,
okay. Let me ask you this. If I wanted, you do complete model rail cars, right?
Yes. So what you get from us is everything in the box. So the car, all of the detail parts, all the wires, and then you can add wheels, couplers, and thing all together.
Okay, give me an idea, what a range maybe even, what would that cost me?
So depending on what car you want, I do know that our passenger cars in O scale, which are O and 30, I believe are $120.
Okay.
But it's an O and 30 car that you hold in your hands. And with that, you get all of the wire, all of the detail parts, everything you need to complete the kit for that car. So you do have things that are cheaper. Just depends on what you or what. The website is 3dptrain.com. I know I saw a question. Go on there, and you can search for rail cars, you can search by railroad, you can search by vendor, anything that's Western Rails Company that's actually designed by us. We also have detail parts now that we're printing. So picnic tables, benches, barrels. What else have we got? A couple other things that are like detail parts that are really, people are really enjoying them as well. And we offer those from Z all the way up to O. So,
Kristen, if I wanted a rail car that you don't produce, and I said, here's some photographs of it, give me an idea of how, and I know it would vary on size and whether it's passenger, freight, or whatever. How much are we talking about for you to design and print it for me?
unfortunately, right now we have about a 3-year waiting list for commissions on cars. We get asked every single day to produce something new. And it's just me and my husband doing this. So we're hoping to add more people who want to design and want to join our team to get paid to design. And that's something that we actively are seeking. So if anybody wants to do that, let me know. Just shoot us an email from the website. But right now we can't really take commissions because we've just got a huge waiting list and backlog. So
it sounds like your company is very profitable and very successful, and I wish you the very best on it. And I'm really looking forward to you doing Petticoat Junction because if you've done this for your own company, I know you're going to make this a successful endeavor for the show. So thank you so much for being here this evening and for all of your help.
Thank you.
By the way, I want to tell everybody, in addition to all of this, being the mom of 6 and going to the train shows and help running the company with her husband and so forth, Kristen's working on her MMR with the NMRA. So I wish you the best of luck with that and look forward to hearing about it from time to time. Thank you so much, Kristen.
Thank you.
Well, now I want to turn to Bill Davis, who is building the Sylvan scale model of a boxcar in both HO and O scale. And Bill and I talked about this the other night. I said, you know, I really appreciate you doing this because Bill's primarily an O scaler, but showing people the difference between the two scales, I really think is important. And Bill, I really do appreciate you doing this for us. So I'll turn it over to you, sir.
All right, well, thanks, Jim. Okay, let's hit that. Let's hit that. Well, maybe not. Oh, there we go. Okay, and let's hit this. I need to get to full screen. Let's see. I get the full screen here. Okay, you get the full screen. Where's the full screen button here?
Click on slideshow. Or to bottom left. The,
okay. Oh,
the one that looks like a screen.
Just
one
to
that
the
looks
right
like
of
a
that, Bill.
screen.
There we go. Okay. I don't know why I got a bar up there, but anyway. Okay, so we're building this boxcar. I found another picture of it in O scale and HO scale. So I start off working with the detailing of the O scale version. We're going to talk about doors, grab irons, tack boards, in details, and the underframe. So in installing the doors, they said to put 80,000 styrene as a backup for the door, just to give it a little more support. I didn't have an 80,000 styrene, but I did have some 40,000 strips. And so I did that with the strips. And then I found that the doors I thought were a little thick. And so I sanded them down to be a thinner profile. And I added here chooch door glides at the bottom. For the grab irons, there were none provided in the kit, in the O scale one. They were provided in the HO one, but not the O scale. And so I made this little jig, and each one of these holes is different size grab irons. It's basically just a piece of 20 thousandths evergreen stripe siding. I use 15 thousandths wire. That scales out to be 3/4 of an inch in O scale, which I think is more correct size. I know from when I worked on the caboose that that was about the size of the grab irons and stuff like this. So a few years ago, I helped build restore a prototype caboose. You got to be careful drilling these things. I won't tell you. I didn't do too bad on the O scale car, but we won't discuss the drill bits that died. And trying to get the piece of drill bit out of the car was a real experience, but I managed to pull it off. Okay, so this is the tack board. This is the way it comes with the kit, but I felt it needed some extra details. So I added these nut bolt washer casters from Grant Line. These are number 99 nut bolt washer castings, and they're pretty small. Now this is the boxcar end. I found that these are Tichy rivets. I found that this pattern was incorrect on the car, so I had to drill them out, and I added these Tichy rivets. Plus, I thought it looked a lot better with the Tichy rivets in it than the dimples that they had on the car. You can see how I added the tack board, got your grab irons, and so this end is pretty well detailed for right now. What am I doing here? Now, this is the underframe. Now they provided last time we talked about, I added these coupler supports, and I was going for the more prototype design than using like a KD box or something like this. We added these these truck bolsters, which come from Protocraft, which makes them really easy to install trucks. Now, putting this 32 thousandths wire, where's my mouse, through here involved a little trickery. And what I actually ended up doing is I cut the wire right here and installed this side. And then I came over here and installed that side and carefully made them glued together so they formed one. Then I made this, this bracket came with the kit for this brake cylinder. This board came with a kit, but I felt it was too thick, so I used the thinner board from my scrap styrene collection. And over here to support, where's my mouse? Over here to support the air tank of the AB system, I made brackets. These brackets consisted of 20 thousandths, I think more like 15 thousandths by 1/4 inch styrene, and then the top there's a little angle piece on top up here, which is like a 10 thousandths by 40 thousandths piece. So that pretty much brings us up to where we're at on the boxcar, except for installing the floor. What I discovered in installing the floor is that this area here was too thick. And so the floor wouldn't fit. So my options were to sand the floor down on each end, but I would lose this corner detail of these braces. So I decided instead to take my Dremel tool and cut out the thickness here, and then using a chisel blade and a couple other X-Acto knife blades and stuff, I was able to clean this all off here and make this thin enough so the floor will fit in. Now I'm going to go back later on and add a little filler in this area here on both ends so that it'll be correctly and filled in properly. Now, this here is the drawer glides. They came out really easy to do on the O-scale model. We'll talk about the HO one in a few minutes. But this is pretty much where we're at on the O-scale model at this time. Actually, this is what the completed side looks like at this point. I will be adding the next time we get together, I'll be adding the brake rigging, the end brake wheel system, and the roof walk and the ladders, which have to be built up in O-scale to this model to complete it and get it ready for painting. Now, building the HO body, we're going to talk about the underframe, the grab irons, the doors and track, the ends, roof walk, and the sides. Now, on this floor, they provided this green soft wire that was talked about earlier. And I did the same thing here. I put this piece of wire in from here, and I drilled through these brackets here. This was already drilled through. I just had to clean it, but I drilled through here with a number 20. This is about 20 thousandths wire. So I drilled through here with a number 75 drill bit and kind of honed it out so it's a little bit bigger. And then this here, I'm putting the K-brake system on this car. So these two brackets support the K-brakes. There's less to do under this car as far as the K-brakes are concerned than there was on the O-scale car. I forgot to mention here that this piece right here, across here and across here, were castings, and I added those there. Same on the O-scale car, and on each one of the four corners here, on each side of the bolster here, are these plates were also added. Now, in reading the article on the this car, in the RMC article on essential freight cars, they talked about jacking pads. So I added a little piece of styrene in here, rounded the corners, and made a jacking pad. Don't know if it's the right design, don't know that, but it's a jacking pad. And also I added the KD coupler pockets on both ends. And that pretty much brought the ender frame of this car to the point ready to do some plumbing. Now, these are the grab irons that are provided in the kit, like number 78 drill bits. And let's put it this way, my collection of 78 drill bits are down to one now. And digging them out was pretty hard. In a couple of cases, I couldn't dig them out. And so I simply glued the end of the grab iron to the end of the drill bit with CA and hoping it sticks. You can get a better view here. Here's the jacking pad over here that sticks out just a little bit beyond the side that they use to jack the cars up, take the trucks off from underneath them. Now, this is this here is the door track that was provided with the kit. And as you can see, I didn't do very well with carving out the piece from the flash. This is very, very fragile and very, very difficult to do. My buddy Murph, I was over at his house and he gave me some 10 thousandths by, might even be thinner than that, HO 1x4 and some HO 4x4. And so I cut the 1x4 to length and I cut these little blocks out of 4x4 and glued that together, and that made my door track. Didn't have this problem in O-scale, but I had this problem in HO. And I did find it difficult at times to work with some of the really small pieces. It's just not what I'm used to. And cutting pieces out that way is a little bit difficult when you're not used to working with those size pieces. So this is the door, and this is the track assembled and installed. And I didn't carve this door down. I didn't feel it was too thick, but this is the door installed with the track installed. And so this area is pretty much finished. Now on the O-scale model, some of these cars had a little metal strip that went across right here. And that was to keep the door from, especially when it was a wooden door, from going in behind here and hitting these braces here. So I didn't put that on this particular car because it had the steel door. I did it on the O-scale car because I figured it was a converted car from wood door to steel door. I went ahead and used the kit roof walk on the HO model. It was pretty easy to do, but I did do some repairs though to some of the roof walk supports. Basically did that with the ACCing a piece of very small styrene there and then send him to the proper shape. This is the completed end. These little guys here, I needed 4 for the model. I made about 11 because either they flew away and I never found them again, or they just didn't work out, or I cut them too short, too long, to this, to that. But I finally got them all on there. I didn't have any nut bolt washers small enough to put that detail on the HO car. I do have Archer rivets, and I may try doing that on it. This car did have correct location of the rivets on the end of the end here, so I didn't have to do to it what I did with the O-scale car. And this is the completed side. Everything in here is ready to go. I will be adding Tichy ladders over here because they have correct ladders available from Tichy in HO, but not in O-scale. So anyway, that pretty much just finishes where we're at this car at this time. I did find it's quite a bit of difference in dealing with the HO scale as the O scale. There are things that I wouldn't have considered putting on the HO car because they're just too small, and the detail level maybe is not required, but I had to do that with the O scale car. Next time we'll finish the brake rigging on these cars. We will add whatever other details need to be added, like the ladders and things, and get it ready for painting. Any questions?
Bill, thank you so much. You've done a fantastic job. That really looks like a beautiful model. And I again, thank you so much for doing it in both of the scales.
Thank you, Jim.
Well, now we've got something really special and really different for you. I want to introduce 2 gentlemen. One of them, Heath Hurwitz, who owns the model railroad that you're going to see remotely operated tonight by Robert Darby. And this is something that I may be wrong, but I think that this could be the future for many people in model railroading. Either they don't have the space, don't have the time, or whatever. I think what Heath has done tonight, I think it could turn into a game that I think a lot of gamers would be interested in. So I personally see a tremendous potential in the remote operation of model railroadings that you're going to see tonight. This, as far as I know, is the only operational remote operated switching layout that we have. And I can't thank you enough for doing this. What we have done here is we're going to try to do this once a month on the second Wednesday of each month. And tonight we have Robert Darby. And I hope that we'll have somebody different that wants to volunteer for the next time we're going to do this on October the 12th. If not, we won't be able to do it. But I really hope that you all want to participate in this. I think Robert's going to show you it's not as hard as you may think. And there's no doing it right, doing it wrong. This is a learning experience and we're all learning together. So gentlemen, thank you so much. Heath, thank you for showing your layout. And Robert, thank you for being our guinea pig.
Thank you. Okay, Heath, you want to do an introduction then, or? Sure. So my name's Heath. This was a little project that I came up with over the pandemic. A lot of people started getting into some remote operations stuff, and I sort of asked the question, could I possibly make it a switching layout? So I went with John Allen's Time Saver, and I did do a presentation on Nutrax modeling about 2 months ago. So if you want to look back and check that out, I go into a lot of the various details, but it's an N scale switching layout. So it does have some of the features of N scale, you might say. But Robert has volunteered to give it a try, and he is going to basically select a challenge to do. We've set it up as a game. So he'll bring up a challenge, and you'll see it in a little bit on the top left of your screen what the challenge is. And Robert will be able to remotely operate the train. And if ideally, I won't have to touch anything, but sometimes I got to give the train a little bit of love and attention. So yeah, Robert, I don't know if you want to fire things up. People might hear the sound. I don't know if the sound will be.
Good evening, all. I'll go ahead and share my screen here in just a minute. I'm going to pull up Heath's website, and let me share my screen here and share screen. Push that button there, and let's see if it'll work. There it is. I think I got it. Let's see now. I want to share, and hopefully you can all see that.
There we go.
There's our 4 windows, basically, what Keith has set up through his magic of software and NMRA. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the bird's eye view first. I'm going to pull up the camera, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start resizing the screens one at a time here. I'm working on a 17-inch laptop, so I recommend a bigger the screen, the better. That way us eye challenged people can see it very well. So let me pull the camera up here. We'll do that first. See if there we go. And to me, it looks like it's to me, it looks like it's HO. So, all right. So let's go ahead and I'll pull that screen down, and I'll go ahead and resize that a little bit here. Put that over there, and let me bring up the other screens here too, so I can get those ready.
So for those that don't know, I live in New York City, so choosing N scale was kind of important, something that I had to do just for space constraints.
We're getting
technically this could be done at any scale. So if people are interested in offering up their space for remote switching and stuff like that, I'd love to talk to people about it. But yeah, Robert, why don't you keep going? Take it away.
All right. So mainly I'm an HO modeler. So I belong to the Napa Valley Model Railroad Historical Society for the last 40 years. So I know enough to be dangerous here. So let me start. I'll work here and bear with me here while I resize the screens. And then do it in such a way that I can see everything all at once here. I got to go back to the beginning here, see what I've done. Okay, there's a feed. That's what I want. I want the camera feed here first. I'm going to resize it and then bring it out to the top. And that way I can get the rest of the screens down here on the bottom. And, oh, I see another train going to be my invader here, which that gives me a little more of a challenge. So now I can pull up the diagram for the switches, and let's see here. So it'll take me just a few minutes here, and I'll try to leave the location of the challenge here, and I'll see if I can shorten that down a little bit so you can see how that will work here in just a minute. I got to pull up the throttle yet. Let's do this here. That way, and I'll turn on the layout here, and I'll show you how I turn on the layout here within the throttle. Let's see, let's move this over. Let's move this, shorten this down a little bit. Okay. And then that way I can see the minimize this here a little bit. And that way I can see the challenge here too. Whoops, I shouldn't have done that, but let's see here where I can do that. There we go. That way I can see the challenge here at the same time. Okay, oops. I'll figure this
And
out.
so just so people know as well, the challenges are multiple. Sorry, I'll mute that for a second. The challenges, you can go from spotting 2 boxcars to spotting 7 boxcars. So there's 7 boxcars on the puzzle at a time. And Robert is choosing the apprentice level challenge, which is spotting 2 boxcars. And you can see it says T3.1, which is track 3 spot 1, and then T2.2, which is track 2 spot 2. And the 2 cars he has to spot are the 3406, which is a brown car, and the 3250, which is a red car.
And you could also, if you want, you can pick journeyman or expert or master, and all that does is it just adds more cars to your switch list. So I'm still apprentice yet, so I select the 2 car apprentice challenge. So let me go ahead and I'll start it up here in just a minute. Let me get one more screen up here. I forgot. Okay, so now we got all 4 screens up here. Writing that out a little bit. Now on the throttle screen, you can see that there's a red square button there on the upper left-hand side. That's how you turn on the power. And I'll go ahead and turn the power on. And I got to bring the screen up here a little bit. I don't need the bottom part. I'll just bring it up here a little bit. There we go. Sorry about that. So I'll go ahead and I'll push the button. And now it turns on the power. Okay. And then I'll turn on if I give it a little bit of power, the sound will come on, and I'll turn on the headlight. And I'll go ahead and I'll start doing a little switching here. Of course, now I probably went the wrong way, of course. So I'll go ahead and I'll stop it. And then I'm going ahead and reverse directions. And then I'll go ahead and bring it back. Of course, there we go. I got to look at my challenge and see what I got to do here. 3486.
So Robert is using the JMRI web server interface for his throttle. We can also use Wi-Fi throttles. So if you wanted to use Wi throttle on your smartphone, or if you have one of the new TCS Wi-Fi throttles, you can also hook that up to the layout as well.
And 23-1. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try to pull the 346 here first. And you always want to try on the diagram where he's got the switch numbers. You can kind of see I need a few switches here. So you push the button and you can see switch 14 turn to the main route, which is green now. And then I've got to turn number 16. Now I can go straight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the boss cars here. Whoops, I'm going to stop and change directions. I'm either forward. There we go. I should always turn on the bell, but the bell and the horn. It's a little loud, so I tend not to use the sounds if I don't have to. I mean, if you're doing a show like the public, it's nice that they want to hear, especially the children, hear all the noises and all the sounds.
So Robert, what do you think your plan is?
Well, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to pull up I should try to do. I know it. That's good thinking thing. What I want to do is I want to pull the 2533 back and, of course, and uncouple. I think it's derailed, Heath. Let me stop. What I did there. What I'm going to do is I should pull it up probably. Let's see. I'm going to drop the 2533 first, I believe, then go ahead and I'll pick up the 3486, and because that has to go on T3-1, so I need one more car there. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and let's see here. Kind of have to think about this a few, think about this, and then sometimes I'll go ahead and do a little extra moves just to, and whoops. Got to make sure I'm going
There's
forward.
definitely multiple levels to this. There's the just controlling the locomotive, operating the switches, thinking about what moves you're going to make to complete the puzzle. The coupling and uncoupling, we're using delayed uncoupling magnets on the tracks for coupling and uncoupling. And then you can see the mainline train pulling in. It's going to stop before it enters the puzzle and back right back out.
Okay, now we're going to make a reverse direction. What I should do, even though it didn't short, I'm on normal number 11 right now, just in case I don't want to prevent shorting for the mainline train. So I'll go ahead and start coming back. Yep. Stop. And because it's N scale, Keith told me it's a little fussy, so I've got to figure out where to.
Yeah. So Robert, what's happening here is you can see this little person here showing the, that's the center of the magnet.
Okay.
So you had to push past the magnet to be able to couple that car.
Gotcha. All right. Oops.
Yep. So now go back forward.
Yeah,
so the way the delayed magnet works is it actually holds the coupler open while it's over the magnet. So you can then push or kick a car as well.
There we go. I got him.
And now you're all hooked up.
Whoop, that's okay.
Oh, and
that works. That'll probably work for me.
It bounced a little over the magnet and uncoupled itself.
Yeah, I had to make an extra move. That's okay. Let's see if we can. I'll pick up the brown car, the 3486 right now, and make sure I'm going forward.
And I'm just double checking that my people are all in the right spot. I added the people so that when the trains are over the magnets, you can still see where the center of the magnet is.
I think I got it. Yeah. Okay. Now, here go past the magnet.
And this is a Great Northern switcher, and these are the Great Northern Circus boxcars, 40-foot boxcars. So I've got 7 40-footers on here right now.
Whoops. I gotta watch the momentum here. Let's see if I did it. I probably didn't. Let's see. Oh, I got it.
Yep. So you used that the uncoupling magnet right there to drop 39992.
And before you switch, it's always a good thing to throw the switch first before you actually move. That also helps prevent derailments and shorting. Whoops. And I better throw a direction here too. There we go. All right. We're going forward again. Probably didn't want to do that. Let's see here. Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, that'll work.
So what do you think the hardest part of all this is, Robert?
The main part of it, just learning, momentum, learning where the spots are to uncouple the cars. Is that where, just how the uncoupling ramps work. Whoops, I better first stop, throw the switch.
I'm a little bit curious to hear from the people watching what it's like to view this, because there's definitely a part of it that is engaging for the person playing the game, But then for the people watching, I'm sort of curious what we can maybe do to make this interesting for them as well.
Okay, let's see. I wasn't paying attention, so let's back up a little bit.
Well, Keith, I'll tell you, from my standpoint, since I've never seen anything like this before, the whole thing is just fascinating to me. I mean, I can understand the difficulty that Robert may be having trying to locate exactly where the uncoupling ramp is. That to me would be the hardest thing to try to figure out if I was trying to do this.
Yeah, and right now I can't see if the couplers actually move or not, so I'm kind of disadvantaged at that.
Yeah.
So, but I kind of know over experience over time, I know where the switch points are at, and I can see those. And sometimes like that 2533 is blocking the LED dwarf, but I can also go to the diagram and notice it's normal just by the indications on the diagram for JMRI. So let me move forward here.
One of the things that would help me is if you can identify the cards, not by numbers, because I can't read the numbers, by color that you're talking about.
Yeah, so the challenge itself does call them out by both color and number. And I did that for exactly what you're talking about, Jim, is sometimes it's going to be easier to see the color and sometimes it'll be a little easier to see the numbers.
Right.
And I know that 1 out of 7 men are colorblind anyway.
Yeah.
I'm not colorblind, but I rely on because I'm a visual person, so I rely on the visual things and the details I pick up. And that's probably why I'm in model railroading over the years, because of just the details and the visual part of it.
Anybody else have any questions or comments about what we're saying here?
I think for me, what I was trying to do as well is, a lot of the remote ops stuff, you need a whole team of people to do it. And in my experience, at least, a lot of my modeling has been as a solo person in my basement. So I wanted to create something that, a single person could operate remotely without needing a team.
Well, frankly, that's one of the things that really attracted me to this, because I really see an awful lot of potential interest for younger people to almost make this a game. You could have competition, who can do it the quickest, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and once I get the whole layout built out, part of the idea of this as well will be I'll have 2 operators here locally in this room, and then the third operator will be remote. And out of the main yard, we'll actually then send the cars to this switching area for the remote operator to then, be more integrated with the entire layout as well. So it can operate standalone as a time saver, or it can operate with the rest of the layout as well.
Oh, gee, that's neat. That's going to be neat. Robert, what do you think of it?
Oh, it's wonderful, actually. It's amazing what you can do in a small space. And some of you may know, but when Keith is actually in a small, very small room, he has his office, he has the railroad, he has his storage. He does it very well. And a lot of people say, well, I can't do everything in a small space. Well, yes, you can. And then Keith has various gauges in his room on his shelving and on his website, his YouTube channel. He goes into that, how to do the wiring, and he's working on scenery and just what he collects and things like that. So let me back up here.
I love seeing that mainline train come in and then go back go back out.
Yeah, that's kind of, and that gives me another challenge here. So let's see what I can do here. Got to figure out how I want to accomplish this.
Yeah, and there have been some people that have done the expert level, all 7 box cars. It takes about an hour or so to do the entire puzzle when you do it that way, and then it's various times for other things. The original time saver, sort of the first step was just spotting the cars. The second step was for time. Then they added a step where it was who could do it in the least amount of moves. I don't necessarily want this to be a competition though, because I want it to be open to everybody. I want, to spread model railroading and spread operations and spread switching to as many people as possible without the intimidation of it being a competition. But I am trying to gamify it to, make it interesting and so that people can challenge themselves more than challenge each other.
Right.
So right now I'm gonna pick up the 3250 boxcar here, the red one, and I'm gonna have to do a seriously thinking on how I'm going to have to spot it here. I won't have to do too much thinking, but I noticed there's looks like to be a runaround here, so I'm gonna have to pick up the car and then run around it to get it on the end I want it. So let's see here. Let's throw the switch.
So let's see. So 3250, this red car here, you are trying to get it to track 2.2.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where is that?
That's what I'm trying to remember. 2.2 is over here. So this is track 2 on this side.
Okay.
So he's going to need to drop that somewhere and then use the runaround to get to the other side of it to then leave it in its spot.
Stop. And I see there's a switch here I don't need. So let's go ahead and normal that one. Make sure that's okay. And we'll throw this one. And there we go. All right. All right, let's back them up. And if I do this right, I can actually put 2 cars, the 19040 and the 3250 together, and I should be able to run around them without fouling here. So let's give it a whirl here and see if I've done this right.
Well, it seems like you've gotten the throttle part of this down pat.
Yeah. Over the years, I've learned, to watch momentum, and when you're doing switching, you want to do it kind of slowly, in case you do make mistakes, or if you need to, like I just did. Let's see if it disconnected, and we'll see if it did or not. It did. So it looks like it'll clear both fouling points here, and I'll stop it and then throw the switch, and I'll make my runaround move, and I got to throw another switch. Okay, now I should be able to. I know the, let's see here. I still hear it, so I believe I'm not on a frog, so I should be able to run around it.
The other thing I've done, and you can see it right here on this one, is I do have these Walthers movable bumpers that I can, add on any of these spurs to make the spurs shorter if needed, just to increase the difficulty.
Okay, now I'll make sure I clear that one, and then I'll back it up.
So the way the delayed uncoupling magnets work as well is you have to push against the magnet until you're over the center of the magnet, and then you pull away. And it's that sort of push-pull motion that allows you to uncouple it.
Whoops.
Yeah, so you're going to need to do the uncoupling right there. Oh, you got
that'll
lucky,
work.
it dropped it anyway.
That'll work. Let's see if I can delay action back to 2. Let's try this and see if the delay action works here.
Yeah, so I can see the couplers are open right now. So if you do go back and push against it, you will be pushing against the open coupler, which means you can just basically kick it into its spot.
Make sure I reverse direction. And
there you go.
There she is. So that's really it. I mean, the challenge for me is done because I've spotted the T31, the brown car in its spot, and the red car in its spot.
Yep, there you go. So it's the 3486 right here on track 3, spot 1, and then the 3250 right there on track 2, spot 2.
I think that's fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you. So if you want to go to a different, I'll just show you guys. If you go to like the journeyman and you hit the challenge, it just adds new cars for you. So eventually I might get up to, a master with all the rest of those cars. So that's the fun. It's really fun. And, it's just, with the HO or any size layout, you got to work out your bugs and make sure your wheels are clean. Definitely make sure your track is clean. Minimize your frustration by minimizing certain things in your layout that can make it not fun. So that's what I have.
Well, let me ask you a question. Would you like to come back and do this again on the 12th and do the journeyman?
Sure, I can try it. You betcha.
Because you're doing so well here, and I think this is a learning experience, and I think we all have got to see how you're doing it, and you're kind of learning as you go, and that's helping everybody, I think, George.
That's correct. I mean, it's and with every year I've been in my railroading, I always learn something. And even right now, being I have no layout right now, I'm actually watching YouTubers like Heath and learning things. So that's that, scenery. And I'm working on a private railroad right now with a gentleman in his mid 80s, trying to explain to him about coupler height and weights and just your basics, rail gauge and things that he used to do a long time ago that unfortunately he's not capable of doing now. So me being I'm the youngster, I'm helping him get his layout going. He wants to do NMRA operating sessions, and I'm getting there, but I've been working on his layout about a year, and I'm almost where he can start inviting people over. The biggest deal that he has right now, he's got old Atlas machines, and the turnouts are not, the frogs are not juiced right now. So I'm working on that. So
well, I tell you, if you want to come back on the 12th of October for our show and do the journeyman, Heath, how does that work for you?
That's fine with me. If somebody else wants to do it as well, we can just sort of we could have Robert go and somebody else go, like, while other things are going on. Now, however you want to do it, Jim.
Well, that's fine. If somebody else wants to do it, I'm open to this, as many people as possible, because that's what this is all about for me. But at the same time, I think it would be interesting because we're not getting questions tonight, and I think people are, this is a learning thing. It's the first time I've ever seen anything like this done. And I think that may be the reaction to a lot of people. So If somebody else wants to participate, that's fine. Just let me know and we'll schedule you. But Robert, I think you did such a beautiful job tonight that if you want to come back and move up to the journeyman and show us what that's kind of like, personally, I'd like to see the kind of difference between the skill levels, if you will, of doing 3 versus 2 and how that all works. I think that would be interesting.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that. Be a pleasure.
Well, listen, guys, thank you so much, Heath and Robert. Thank you so much for both of you being here this evening and doing this. Does anybody have any questions before we shut this one down? Thanks again, guys, and look forward to see you next time on the 12th.
Jim, thanks so much for having us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it so much. I hope you did. Well, listen, I've got a surprise now for everybody. I don't normally run, and Pat, I don't know if the screen is locked up, but all I'm seeing is the word Zoom here.
Whoop. I know what I got to do. Stop share. There we go. That'll work.
Okay. There you go.
Sorry about that.
No problem. So Pat, this is a short video. I don't normally play videos of other people's work, but I was so impressed with this. I wanted to show it to everybody. And then I've got a question for everybody after you've seen this. So Pat, if you could run it, please. Well, John, I don't know if anybody paid a lot of attention to that. I was just so impressed with that and the modeling that I saw. What did you all think of that?
It's awesome, Jim. I know in O scale, it's so easy to do so many tiny details, and it looks like he nailed every single one of them, from the buildings to the locomotives and the cars and the whole scenery. It was fabulous.
The videography was spectacular too.
Wasn't that was really something, in my opinion. I mean, I was just so impressed. And I assume that everybody knows that that's a 3-rail layout, right?
Very impressive.
Before I noticed the third rail, I almost thought it was like some museum, refurbished locomotives.
It's truly amazing.
It is truly amazing what a 3-railer is doing in this hobby. And people have told me, don't have 3-railers. Pat, can you clear up the screen?
That's what I'm trying to do right now. I'm trying to remove the spotlight. Just hang on there.
People have told me, why do you have any 3-railer on the show? This is a scale show, and that's who your market is, and so forth. Gentlemen, this is why, to me, there are some 3-rail modelers out there that I take my hat off to. I mean, there is just some fantastic work being done out there, and that's why, to me, the 3-railers are just as welcome here as anybody else, because we can learn from them. I mean, the structures that are being built, the scenery that's being done, I'll put that up against anybody's layout anywhere.
Yeah, having a third rail doesn't mean you have to cut corners anywhere else. That's almost like 3-rail Proto 48, I'll bet.
Yeah, I mean, and the way that locomotive was running and so forth, I mean, don't we all wish that everything that we did would run that well?
Makes me jealous.
So anyway, no, thanks, Pat. So anyway, that's the show for this evening. I hope everybody enjoyed it. If you haven't done so, I hope you'll go to our website, newtracksmodeling.com, and subscribe. It's the only way that you can join us live on Zoom, because when you subscribe to our website, then you'll get an email each week giving you the login link information you need. We have to do it that way to keep hackers away. And if you'd rather join us on YouTube or see the videos that we post after the show on YouTube, then you need to subscribe to our YouTube channel, New Tracks Modeling, and ring the bell. And you'll get notices of all of the shows that we do, not just on Wednesday, but also the Thursday shows. And the Thursday shows, the only way that you can watch them is on YouTube. You can't watch them on Zoom. So we hope that you'll subscribe. And we hope again that you really enjoyed tonight. We had some fantastic modelers showing their work. And I hope you had an opportunity to learn something that'll help your modeling. So with that said, see you next week. Thank you so much for being here this evening.
Thank you, Jim.
And we're through, right?
Yeah, you want me to shut her down?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I want to do a little bit of the after show if anybody would like to stay around. And if anybody
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Pat, for running. I'm going to have to bail. I have some stuff to clean up here.
Take care. See you next week, Rick.
The show. Bye-bye, guys.
Yep.
And it's getting kind of late. The show ran a little long tonight. So unless somebody has something they really want to talk about, let's just shut it down. I'll leave it up to you all. If you want to talk about something, let's talk.
Don't everybody speak at once.
Yeah. But the floor is open, please.
Let her rip. Gary, quit being so quiet back there.
All right, Pat, I think we've done it for this evening. Thank you.
All
again
right.
and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Pat.
Okay. See you, Jim.
Yes, sir.